All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jenny Sharpe. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for the Pittsburgh Robotics Network. I've been working tirelessly for the last year putting this event together, and I'm so excited to welcome each and every one of you to the 4th annual Robotics and AI Discovery Day. I've got some great folks with me today. Together, we were trying to figure out how many resumes we've all looked at together in our careers. We think it's well over 30 or 40,000, maybe even more. And the number of interviews we've all done is definitely in the thousands. So we've got some really great speakers with me today on this panel that are gonna try to shed a light on what's happening, what's next in tech jobs. We've heard a lot of things from both education stakeholders, recruiters, hiring managers, and job seekers especially, saying that this is a hard job market, that this is a difficult time to find a job and build a career. And we want to get into that. We want to talk about what we're seeing, and we really want to take a moment to humanize this experience. There's so much talk about AI, reading your resume and making a decision, the hiring decision. And we've got some really great people here today that are going to combat that. And they're going to talk a little bit about how they, as individuals and as people, help make the decisions that are critical to growing their teams. So I'm going to let each speaker introduce themselves. You can just talk about, give your name and your title and a little bit about your company. And also, can you just give us one thing that makes your company a great place to work? Kelsey, I'll start with you.
One thing that's really hard. So I'm Kelsey Schultz. I'm a senior technical recruiter at Agility Robotics. And at Agility, we build humanoid robots to augment the workforce. So they take on the repetitive and mundane tasks so that people can be freed up to do a lot more meaningful work. So one thing is very hard to choose. I'd say the people. We have a lot of really great, smart, passionate, collaborative folks on the team. Our product is cool. We have robots, so we have them demoing over there if you want to check them out. And our purpose, again, just to take on a lot of the repetitive tasks so that people can do more meaningful work. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. Welcome. Josh?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Josh Kistler. I am a recruiting manager at Aurora. We have a big, large truck over there that you can all go take a look at. So that's what we're doing. We're moving freight across the country autonomously. We are launched in Texas right now, and yeah, so that's what we're doing. Something that I really enjoy about the work is it's something new, it's something fresh that hasn't been done before, and to me, that's something that's very exciting.
Hi, I'm Kirsch, Director of Software Engineering at Omnicell. My dad. Swap this for now. Good now? All right, thank you. As I was saying, I'm Nicholas Kirsch, Director of Software Engineering at Omnicell. Omnicell is a medication management company, so Omnicell works to automate a lot of those manual tasks and labor that goes into managing medications in the hospital. And so I think that the best thing about working at Omnicell is actually the vision. So we want healthcare professionals to spend more time with their patients. We don't want them counting medications. We don't want them worrying about their inventory, whether or not you have a life-saving medication in stock for a patient that needs it. So we want to make sure that the healthcare professionals are doing the people job and taking care of the people, and Omnicell is taking care of the rest.
Awesome. Thank you. Lou?
My name is Lou Bojarski. I'm an autonomy systems team lead, so less hiring, a lot of interviewing on the technical side, a little less hiring than some of my colleagues, but still a lot in the last 10 years. I've been with Caterpillar. We have the Pittsburgh Automation Center here where we work on next generation and current generation autonomy across our product lines, both the machines you see out building things in the world and internally in our factories, logistics, and those things. I think, selfishly, the best thing about what I get to do is it's sort of that intersection of what I think every little kid may have thought they wanted to do, which is bulldozers and robots. The reality of it is, some of the folks who talked in the last panel hit on it. There's still a lot of hard work that goes into it. So it's conceptually interesting, just like all the exciting robotics things. I like the hard nature and the real engineering piece that underlies all of robotics. So that's satisfying for me, kind of selfishly, but the mission for getting people into a safer environment, into safer machines, and out of those the really dangerous environments is important too.
Great, thanks everyone. Lou, you touched on something that I think is really important to understand about the sector that we represent. And that is, you talk about bulldozers and robots. How cool is that to work with bulldozers and robots? I think it's really important to remember that for a lot of the job seekers we serve and the people that work on our teams, this is a dream job for them. This is something they thought they could have when they were a kid walking around the STEM zone, that now they do as an adult, get to do these really cool activities. And so when you're working with a population that is excited to be there, you tend to get a job seeker that maybe is trying a little too hard. So let's talk about that job seeker for just a second. We've got a lot of the folks that I meet with say, they've tried applying to every open position, for example. Can we touch on that? What's the appropriate way to apply to more than one position at your organization? Kelsey, you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I can start. So first and foremost, making sure that it is a relevant job. So just throwing your resume out there is never a good thing. You want to make sure it's a role that you're actually a fit for, or connecting with people inside companies. So referrals are really important when they can vouch for candidates and speak to, this is a great person that I'd want to bring in. That really adds a lot of value. So spend time making those connections. Follow up on your application once or twice, but if you don't hear back, it's okay to move on and check back and see if they have other opportunities and postings that might be a good fit.
Thanks, Kelsey. Josh, what do you think? Should I apply to every open position at Aurora if I want to work at Aurora, or how should I go about that?
Yeah, no, please don't apply to every position that's open. As Kelsey said, apply to relevant roles that you're actually qualified for. As a recruiter, we see every position you apply to. Hiring managers typically see every position you apply to. And I think it's really important to understand the backside of what's going on there, of does this person even know what they want, right? Are they dialed in? Do they really have a focus in what they want to do when they start working here? So be more selective on what you're doing. And I think polish your resume to those positions versus just throwing a blanket resume out to every role that's open.
Awesome, thank you. Just to kind of continue on this excited job seeker, we're seeing a lot of job seekers use AI right now with this idea that, well, a bot is reading my resume, a bot is making the decision to hire me. Can we touch on this a little bit? Nick, do you have any comments on the use of AI by Omnicell in the hiring process?
I'm going to try it one more time. Is it working now? We're good. Okay. So we obviously do use it to some extent. I mean, resume filtering has been around for a long time. That's usually the first stage of applying to a job. That's the first filter that you're going to encounter. Obviously, they've gotten a little bit better with artificial intelligence. There's better platforms out there. But I think it's really important that, and one of the things we try to do at Omnicell is you also have to verify whether or not those models are doing a good job. So every now and then, if you've got a ranking system that's going to rank candidates as they match to a position 1 to 5, every now and then go and take a peek at the ones. See how well it's doing, evaluate the system for yourself. And that is really the best way to get the results and make sure you're not missing good candidates. So yes AI, but don't just trust it outright.
Yeah, and a lot of what's happening that job seekers are considering AI is really keyword searching off your resume. And that has been around how long? 20 years, 15 years? We've all been using those systems. They're called applicant tracking systems. Does anyone else want to comment on this? What's the difference between the applicant tracking system data that you've been using all along and this kind of rise of AI? Kelsey, are you seeing this at all?
Yeah, I would say they are similar. It's just more advanced. So we're also seeing additional capabilities. So with things like taking notes. So instead of having to take all of your manual notes, automating tasks like that. But we have been using applicant tracking systems I can't say from the very beginning, but for a very long time. I think they've just gotten more advanced, and they've been able to help us more with a lot of the administrative tasks.
Does anyone else want to comment on this? Using bots to write your resume, using bots to review resumes?
We've seen it a lot. So 2 things I suggest to applicants. Going back to your question about multiple roles, for us at Caterpillar, it's a little different in that we're such a large enterprise. Sometimes there are very similar roles in dramatically different operating units or business units. So think about that. People should think about the scale of the company and always ask. That's helpful. That's, I've referred people to apply to 3 or 4. And that changes also. Earlier in your career, you're a little wider. Once you've narrowed, maybe that's a little less relevant. But your question about AI, we've been using it obviously forever for all the same ways you're doing it. But really, really the engagement that you use, that you get with the candidates at events that PRN does, that Innovation Works does, all these great university at Pitt, Carnegie Mellon, get face time with these companies, with people, and that is a really strong tool that we use. I mean, that helps us validate the AI. If I talk to 15 people that I rank as highly skilled and I want to see them, and I know that, and I follow up with them, hey, did you apply? Yes, and I don't get that resume, now I have data to feed back into our AI loop, say, hey, what's going on? This girl from CMU is phenomenal. Why did she get filtered out? So we're feeding the loop back into AI to make the systems better, I think is a big thing we as hiring managers need to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Lou. I really want to point out here the difference in perspectives from the 4 panelists we have up, because I think you got it a little bit in their introduction, but I want to make sure that we kind of really understand how each company thinks about hiring and the hiring process different. So can we just really quick down the line, can you tell me how many people work at your organization? At Agility?
We are just about to hit 300.
300 at Aurora?
Yeah, we're at about 1,900.
1,900 at Omnicell?
About 4,000.
And then at Caterpillar?
115,000-ish.
Awesome. I love that they sat in that order. That made my job way easier. But I want to point this out to you because I think it's so important to understand the company's size that you're applying to, because how you apply is going to be different. The advice that these 4 people on stage right now will give you will be a little different. And that's because robotics doesn't function as a sector that has the same language across it. Each of these individual businesses are doing what's best practice for them. So all the way down in the end here, we've got, do apply maybe more than a role because we've got 10,000 people that work here, right? Versus, hey, if there's 300 people or less, I'm gonna see that you applied to every single one of those roles because I manage most of that system, right? Does anyone else want to comment on this? Just what's happening here when it comes to like applying to a smaller company versus a larger company and what you should expect?
I can start and then maybe go to the larger employers. I would say there definitely is a big difference. I've worked for a variety of sizes. I think it is important to keep that in mind. And I think, the amount of applications you put out there, who you're connecting with, again, it's really important to build those connections. We've actually had employees meet other candidates at PRN events that they then referred and we hired. So again, really important to build those connections. It helps you stand out whether it's at a small company or a larger company. But I think it is important to keep in mind generally the size.
That's great. Let's get into networking then, especially networking as a job seeker. Is any job seekers in the audience right now? A couple of you guys? Awesome. Welcome, welcome. A lot of folks are going to be here at this event. I think we're expecting about 8,000 people. You're here to network, right? So what are some do's and don'ts of networking as a job seeker? Nick, you're kind of nodding. We want to start out. What's some do's and don'ts?
Yeah, because I think we talked about this in my response when we first talked about this. Was my major ick, right? Was don't just come ask for a job. If the way you start the conversation is, "Hi, I need a job. Hire me." That's it. The door is shut. And sometimes it's not that they have no interest in talking to you. It's actually because they may not have an open position. They may not be working in the recruiting department of that organization. They may not be the hiring manager for the position that you might be a match for. They may not even hire people from your discipline or your experience. So if you're just going around and saying, hire me, right? Here's my resume, hire me. It's not going to work. And it's better to open the conversation with, I'd love to learn about your company and figure out if I'm a match instead of just saying, just hire me. I don't care, just hire me.
Yeah, and I'd say there's a big difference, too, in who you're speaking with. So as the head of software engineering, Nick comes from a specific viewpoint as a hiring manager versus a recruiter. So can one of the recruiters comment? Maybe Josh, can you comment on what you want to hear from someone when they're networking with you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, networking starts years, months ahead of time. It shouldn't start when, holy smokes, I need a job, right? So you should be building these relationships for a long period of time. That way, when the time comes that you do need to reach out to Nick and say, hey, Nick, I need a job. We've chatted in the past. He's way more open to do something like that. I think from a recruiter perspective, Kelsey and I were likely getting bombarded with tons of messages every day, right? And the majority of them do come across as, hey, I need a job. What do you have open? In all honesty, we don't have time to respond to everyone and have thoughtful conversations with everyone that is requesting that. So build those relationships long term, I think, is my best advice to everyone, just because it's going to be easier for me to say, yeah, like I can take 15 minutes to have a coffee chat with you, right? Versus somebody that's like, hey, I just connected with you. I applied to this job, hire me.
Yeah, thank you so much for touching on this. Sometimes we talk about this almost like dating. If you saw someone that you thought was cute at a coffee shop, would you walk up and say, hi, I'm Jenny, will you go on a date with me? Like, they'd probably be like, who is this person, right? Versus like, hi, I noticed you're reading a book. Like, do you like the book you're reading? That's pretty cool. I like reading too. Like, do you have any book recommendations for me? Right, you start a conversation with someone. So that's like a good approach in networking that I think all of us have kind of like talked about in one way or another. Lou, did you have something you wanted to add?
I think what's interesting for me in those kind of situations when you're approached with someone who either says, hey, I need a job, or more often in our case, someone's going to come to me and they're a great mechanical engineer, or she's a great hydraulics engineer, things that you look at the equipment Cat makes and you're like, I want to do that. And I don't do that, right? I work on the autonomy side of the business. So I'm happy, I always have those conversations. I don't only do informational interviews and recruiting for my areas. We do it across the org. But seeing a candidate, if a candidate can pick up on the context of the conversation, which is, hey, not my area of expertise, let me get some information from you and see what's out there, how they respond to that is important. It tells me something about their ability to understand context of a problem and how to approach not getting the answer you wanted. So they're good cues for me to see, and that's really the trick, especially for younger engineers, is appreciate the fact that I'm not going to be able to help you today. You're laying the groundwork, like you said, for down the road. When I do talk to a hiring manager, I said, there's a dynamite engineer, I met her at the PRN event, you should talk to her, right? You know, play that long game and be willing to, because when someone just keeps saying, well, yeah, but I want this, yeah, but I do this, well, Caterpillar does that, you're like, yes, they do, I get it. And then that really kind of affects the dynamic.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Josh? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, because I had a thought about this, because we're talking and it's all really one-directional. It sounds really one-directional. This is bi-directional, because it's not just about job seekers that are going to come to me and build that relationship and network and prepare for that future role. I do the same thing, right? That I know I'm going to want to hire good engineers. And I know that I need to go out there, I need to do the work, I need to network as well. And so I think to maybe help everyone feel a little more comfortable with it, we want to have those conversations. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, and they should visit you in booth, what number?
Booth 100.
100. You can go see Nick in booth 100. Do you have something you want to add, Kelsey?
Yeah, I was just going to add, it's also really important just to stay connected. If you don't get a role, even if you interview, how you take the feedback is really important. We've had a lot of candidates that we might not make the offer because there was one thing that was off or timing didn't work or something like that, and then we come back, a year later, 6 months later, and we're able to make it work. So staying in touch with the company, or if you connect with the hiring panel or hiring managers, that'll really help you as well.
Yeah, so we all agree here that networking is really important, that building those relationships, that following up, stay consistent, connect on LinkedIn. Never know when a hiring manager is going to post a role, right? So seeing them and connecting with them on LinkedIn is so helpful. Let's talk about the opposite, because in a perfect world, we'd all network and know each other, but it's an imperfect world, and it's a really hard job market. So when you're cold applying to a position, what advice do you have for a cold applicant? Anything, Kelsey, you want to start us off?
I would say making sure that your resume is tailored and relevant to the role, and making sure that there's measurable results on there. So instead of just listing job duties and what you do on a day-to-day basis, but how you've been able to actually make an impact will really stand out. So making sure you're putting your best foot forward. You can connect with, try to connect with folks in the company and build those connections that way as well. But making sure you're putting your best foot forward with your resume and your CV and everything like that is really important too.
Hey, do you want to add anything? Josh?
I agree with that.
All right, Josh agrees. Great. Anybody else want to talk on this at all?
I was just to back that up. When we do a lot of interviewing, we focus on kind of very classical method of kind of situation, task, action, result. So I've told, especially younger engineers, I said, start thinking about that. And maybe tee your resume up in terms of at each place, like you said, don't just list your skill sets. Don't just list random projects that might have had a weird name that no one else knows what it was. Think about each description as, hey, what's the situation and what was your action? And that really eases into a conversation for an interviewer, because that's probably, they're going to want to know what your results were. What did you do and what were your results? For me, that's guidance I've given resume writers. I try to use it, in the rare times when I've had to been at Caterpillar for 12 years, so I haven't had to interview in a long time. But I like that. I mean, and I don't know if that's standard, if that's good or bad, but we've gotten good results with it in terms of getting resumes that really help me not miss good candidates. Because if you just list the tasks, it really makes you look like a lot of the other people who might have had similar projects or tasks.
Yeah, and I think there's a trap here too, where people feel like they have to have the most standardized resume possible. Now, as we crescendo into the biggest teams across this panel, that might be true at Caterpillar, but unique resumes, and Kelsey, do you agree? A unique resume is not a bad thing to have. It does not need to be so overly standardized that it looks identical to the other 500 people that just graduated with the exact same degree as you. Add something else. Talk a little bit more about something else. You guys want to add on anything on that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I would say, again, just making sure it's really clear how you've been able to make an impact. That's really going to help. But don't have typos. Be mindful of your formatting. It can be unique, but you also want to make sure it's easy to read and someone can scan it and read through it in 15, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's super important to have your resume tell the story and you try to lead the conversation in this interview process, right? A lot of times what I see happen is you leave a lot of, or people submitting resumes leave a lot of unknowns on there, which causes a lot of digging in and asking probing questions, and it kind of spirals a lot of times. But if you have enough information on there that your resume is actually pushing that interview and driving it forward, then you're capable of leading that conversation and moving in the direction you want, which oftentimes leads to a much smoother interview process for you, I've found.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, one thing I like to tell people is think about the user experience of your resume. So, I mean, you mentioned how many resumes the people on this panel have seen. It's a lot. So if your job is to go through resumes all day and you get a resume and it is just cram-packed with text, no white space, hard to read, you can't navigate the resume at all, immediately, right? It's like, subconsciously I'm frustrated with this resume, I'm probably going to be frustrated with this person, right? And so I think you need to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the recruiters, the hiring managers, and think, they're going to have to read this, and they're going to want to enjoy reading it. If they don't enjoy reading it, then it's immediately going to be a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, I see all the time this mass list of publications with zero context. It's like, okay, that's great to see. Thank you for the publication. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea what you did. I don't know what part you had. Is that something you guys have seen?
Yeah, I was going to ask from a software perspective, when you see every language written that I'm an expert in, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, and I think we talked about that earlier, right? That you have recent graduates that put, I am an expert in Python, or I am an expert in C++, right? And it's like, really? Because I've talked to the guy who is a part of the team that developed the language, right? I would call him an expert. He's been doing it for 30, 40 years, right? You are not an expert. Absolutely not. And so I think they will kind of overstate their experience a little bit. Be genuine, right? I mean, we have realistic expectations. I don't expect you to be an expert for an entry-level position, right? We're not totally crazy. We're not going to pull in somebody with 30 years of experience to an entry-level position, right?
Yeah, and if you say you're an expert, when you get down to Lou, who's doing the technical interview with you, it's going to be very obvious that you're not. And not only are you wasting your own time and getting your own hopes up just to be crushed, you're also wasting the time of the company and the recruiter and holding them back from finding the right person for the position. So lying on your resume is not helping anyone, and it certainly is not helping you.
I was going to say, even overstating, maybe innocently, younger engineers will say, oh, I'm an expert in this, and they only have 2 years of experience total. So they're not intentionally lying. The intentional lying thing is obvious. We filter that out as best we can, and it's usually easy to do. But the unintentional sort of, well, I don't really, I thought I was an expert, but I guess I'm not. Not only does it waste time, it wastes time for them because there's probably something else that's really valuable in that candidate, right? Something in their enthusiasm, something in their approach, something in their ability to problem solve. And you'll get caught up trying to vet those deep technical claims. We're going to ask you the technical things. If you need a software engineer that's doing C++ and they've only ever written Python, that's not bad. That just might not be right for that. So that's another pitfall. Stay out of sort of the unintentional things that it's trust but verify in your skills. And for me, at least, I like to get through that as quickly as possible. And the more, yes, but, oh, I don't know, yeah, I only did that for a year, the more of the time of the interview that eats up, the less time we have for you to describe to me and the other folks on the panel, on our interview panels, really the impactful things you've done.
Awesome, thank you so much. I've got a little section now for the next 2 minutes. Are you guys familiar with what an ick is? Just means something kind of bothers you, it's something you don't like, it might be a pet peeve. We're going to do some rapid fire questions here that I've heard from you. Some of you might be an ick. And I just want to hear yes or no, or you can say it doesn't matter. That's what I'm looking for. So should you have a photo of yourself on your resume?
No.
No.
It doesn't matter to me.
Probably not, but not a deal breaker.
Okay, so the jury's in. No photos on your resume. Okay, we're going to move on. Your education section, should it be at the top of your resume or the bottom of your resume?
I would say it depends on where you are in your career. If you're early stage, you might have it at the top of there with projects and things like that. But as you grow in your career, it can be towards the bottom.
I don't care.
I agree with Kelsey.
I don't care, but the company I work for does, so they like to see it earlier on.
They want to see it earlier on.
As part of the non-AI technical screen. Right?
Okay, awesome. Should you list your hobbies and special interests?
Don't care. Up to the candidate.
No.
If they're relevant, right?
Oh yeah, if they're relevant, that's actually a great touch. If you're applying to a bicycle company to be an engineer, working on bicycles, and bicycling is something that you love doing and you've been competing in bicycle competitions your whole life, you should put that on your resume. It's really, really relevant, right? So that's a great point out. Thanks, Nick. Lou?
Yeah, the same. There's a booth over here with Pitt's micro SAE car, Formula SAE car.
Yeah,
if you worked on that and you're going to apply, or is it over here? Where is?
Oh, it's right there. That's the car.
Right
there. Yeah.
If you worked on that as an undergrad and you don't put that on your resume, that's a disservice to you and to me. Early in my career, I ended up getting an interview solely based on a hobby I had, but it was fabricating and racing cars. So literally the hiring manager's like, I needed more skill set in electromechanical stuff. You were out until I saw that. That's why I brought you in for this interview. So again, very situational, and if it's relevant, by all means.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't do it just to fill space.
Yeah, you're better off with the white space. You're better off with just nothing. That's fine. Okay, last one. Personal statements or summaries, not an objective statement. Those are pretty old school, but a summary of your resume at the top of your resume. What do you think? Kelsey?
If it's relevant and helpful.
Josh?
I don't care.
I'd say no, especially if they're also asking for a cover letter. Sometimes you have to apply and there's a cover letter, and that provides most of the context of the story.
Yeah, I would say I don't care. If it's done well, but it's so hard to do well in a short, I've read, someone famous once wrote, I was going to write you a short letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote you a long one. I think it's really hard to get to get a statement that's impactful for us to see. It's hard to do well. So, and if you're not sure you've baked that, don't include it, but maybe practice it. Go back to the networking.
Yeah, where I see it the most valuable is to make it so that the recruiter doesn't have to count how many years you've been working. So if the role says, I need someone with 10 to 12 years of experience, and your personal statement is, I have 10 years of experience as an engineer in robotics systems, and I'm looking forward to this position or whatever, that's when it's really helpful because now we're not doing the math, right? Okay, I'm going to take one from the audience. Something you want to know from this panel? Anything? Yeah? Go ahead. Sure.
Sorry. A hiring manager once told me that he's, at least from his HR, he's never been given a cover letter, and if he got a cover letter, he wouldn't read it. Is that, typical in your experience? Should we be working on cover letters? Should we be focusing on resume and getting it in?
Fantastic question. So I want you to first answer, do you allow people to submit a cover letter? And then 2, how often do you read them? Kelsey, go.
I would say yes, we do. We try to go through them, but sometimes it's duplicative, so it's not a requirement. I would look at the job posting itself.
Josh?
Yeah, we do get them. It is not required. I think in today's age, what I see is just an AI-generated cover letter that really isn't impactful. So if you're going to do it well, just like your little statement. But absolutely not necessary. I don't know many people that have ever read them.
Awesome, Nick?
Yeah, I think we just switched our system, so I haven't applied to Omnicell recently. We changed our system, so I don't remember. But I believe that we do, and I'd say, to me, the big thing is that when you're looking at these people, you want to get as much information as you can to know you're making the right decision. If the resume doesn't feel like enough to me, then I'll go out and I'll search through a lot of other things. So you don't need it, but sometimes, yes, it can help.
Lou?
For me, it doesn't matter. It really frustrates me. We don't do this, but there's still some companies out there that in their online systems require it. I've had candidates. I think it's a generational thing. I think if you are going to find value in it as someone who's hiring, don't require it.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is everything about your cover letter and your resume is a tool. It's you telling a story because you are a unique butterfly as a candidate. I always tell people that. And so, use these tools to your benefit. If you've got a massive 4 years of no work history on your resume, use your cover letter to tell the recruiter why that's there, right? Hey, I took a break. I was on medical leave. I raised my sibling. Whatever it is, use that as an example, right? But yeah, just do your best with the cover letters. Okay, I know we're just about out of time here. Any last statements anything we didn't cover, panelists, that you want to comment on?
I think the only other thing I'd add is I know there's a lot of questions about using AI in helping with building your resume and things like that. I think it's totally fine as long as it's the right information. So again, make sure it's truthful and it accurately represents your background and your skills. But it is a tool, and a lot of companies are looking for how people can use it in their workflows to make them more productive. So it's more of a tool that you should try to use and figure out versus trying to void away from it or shy away from it.
Any other final statements, Lou?
I was gonna say, to follow on that, don't use it last minute. I've seen that where someone I actually would have appreciated the resume that had a couple typos over what the resume I got was based on kind of using AI wrong. So it's no problem using it. Demonstrate that you know how to use it and use it as a tool, not as kind of a surrogate or a crutch.
Awesome. We are out of time. I do want to thank each one of our panelists for being here today and helping tell the story and help shed light on this process. There is a human being making the hiring decision at all of these companies. It is not just done by AI. Thank you all so much for being here. If you're an active job seeker, please visit our job board, robopgh.org/jobs. We have more than 230 open positions aggregated from the companies that you see here and around the hall today. And and don't forget to check out our Career Center. All right, we're off to the next panel. Thank you all so much. Enjoy your day.